Are we live?
We're live. Is the audio gains going?
Yeah.
Cool. That's gonna be it's gonna blow my ears out when I edit that later.
Sorry. How do these usually start?
I don't know.
See, I'm looking at the camera.
No, look at me.
Oh, God. I don't want to look at you, Ed.
No, we're having
I'm just kidding.
We're having a conversation.
Sweet.
Welcome everyone to the MIDCONVO podcast, where the best nuggets, life advice comes in the middle of the conversation.
Boom.
Something like that. I don't know. I'm still working on the intro for this.
That's fine. That's fine.
So today's guest is Jeffrey Lee, cinematographer based out of Seattle. Thanks for coming on to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, dude. Yeah.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about, I forgot. What are we talking about?
How I got started.
No, there was a topic we wanted to overarch though. Oh, it was what no one talks about. We're going to talk about what no one talks about, which is Jeffrey's journey in freelancing, the creative process that he goes through, and just obstacles that most people don't like to shed light on when it comes to freelancing, especially in the content creation space.
For sure.
So
For sure.
Maybe we could start off with you introducing yourself and what you do.
I'm still looking over here.
You're still looking at me.
Yeah, so I'm Jeffrey Lee. I'm a cinematographer based out of Seattle, Washington. And I mean, should we talk about how we met first?
We should talk about how we met. Yeah, let's talk about that.
I mean, it was super funny because I had a bunch of Sony gear. You had a bunch of Canon gear. And I mean, you were looking to swap because I posted on Craigslist and then I got a text about, hey, would you want to swap? And I'm like, yes, because that's exactly what I was trying to do, get into Canon.
True.
Team Canon. And then we met up and I had realized that you were the guy that was behind all of the videos of Michael Flugs and
Flugs.
Tucker and stuff like that. And I was just like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then that's how we met, through Craigslist.
How long ago was that? That was
maybe a year and a half ago.
No, I think it's been longer.
2 years?
Almost 2 years, yeah.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. So we basically met on Craigslist.
Yeah, which is a funny story.
Yeah, and we're good buds now.
Yeah, I mean, we kept in contact and I went on a few shoots with you and then we started hanging out and I mean, it's cool now because it's just crazy to see everything that's progressed since then. So
Jeffrey, motorcycles going by. I'm not sure how sensitive this mic is, but we're in downtown Seattle, guys. So you might hear some buses, some horns, but it's all good.
It's gonna be loud.
It's all good.
It's gonna be loud.
So kind of going back to what we were just talking about, maybe you want to share your journey of how you, what your official title is and what you do. Let's start there.
Yeah, so I mean, I mainly focus on weddings and stuff and, elopements and engagement sessions. And I try to bring the video into that. So a lot of photography is done with weddings and whatnot, but I thought that would be cool to do video too, because it's still that industry is still in its infancy, I would say. I wouldn't say that everybody's looking to have a videographer. And that's something that is cool to take advantage of, this new kind of industry that's still forming and shaping and not many people know about. Because when you think about a wedding videographer, it's usually your uncle that has a camera in his hand that's still has a wrap around his hand. So something like that. But I mean, how I got started, right after high school, I went to Wazoo, which is Washington State University, for a semester because I thought I wanted to do finance. I thought I wanted to get into that world of things, and I wasn't sure if that was something I really wanted to do, but it just sounded interesting. And in high school, I had a graphic design business that I was doing for a while and just creating for YouTubers. And then I found myself constantly designing in college, and I was just maybe I should go back home and just start. Just start pursuing design. And so I transferred back to the West Side and pretty much just started doing design, and then graduated with my design degree. And during that whole entire process, I met someone named by the name of Jonathan Gapaya, who is now one of my best friends, hang out with him every day. But at the time, he was looking for someone to have a logo done for him. And, I was that person that created a logo, and then we started hanging out. And then I saved up enough money after doing some design gigs to buy a camera. Started making travel videos with my girlfriend every time we went on trips. And he was just like, would you ever do wedding videos? Because he's a wedding photographer, and he's like, you know, one of the best, and like in my eyes, like definitely like someone that I aspire to be like.
I put the handle right here.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, exactly. And so like, yeah, I mean, I started off with him, and like he kind of pushed me into like this new world, and like, you know, I learned a lot from him and like a lot of other people, but I would definitely say that it was like him that really inspired me to do even more with the camera. So, yeah.
Awesome. So kind of like recapping a little bit.
Yeah.
You went to college. You initially wanted to do business, like that, like number crunching.
Yeah.
And then you eventually stumbled upon design, so like graphic design.
Yeah.
And then through that, you kind of found like people you met, and you wanted to do video.
Exactly.
And you said you started a business a little bit for graphic design. So you were making some money making like logos and like pictures for people, or what were you designing?
Yeah, so I mean, it started off with YouTube because I used to play a bunch of video games like in middle school, and I used to follow these big gaming channels, and so I would make like you know, the cover art.
Yeah. Like
like back in the
headers.
Yeah, the headers. Yeah. The headers, like back in the day, used to have like headers, and you used to be able to like fully design your entire page, and that's what I would make. Like people would pay you for that, and I never knew that was a thing. And then once I got into it, I was like, okay, like that's awesome.
How much did you charge for that?
It was probably like $15-20.
$15-20?
Yeah, like per.
Yo,
I mean, if you think about it now,
beginnings.
But that's like middle school. I mean, that's like middle school. Like some kid walking around lunch with $15 to go buy like you know, Doritos, like a bag of Doritos. Like that's what it's like. So. But yeah, like I remember like being in middle school and like freshman year of high school, like having a PayPal account and just like, you know, making money that way. But
guerrilla style, everyone starts with the PayPal
exactly.
and the
like
Venmo.
you would like email people and it's like, hey, like, you know, I want to make you a design, and like you make them something, and then a bunch of their followers like reach out. I
think that's a perfect gateway to what we want to start talking about, which is essentially the business side or like the behind the scenes process of being a freelancer, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, we just talked about it. Like when you first start out, no one knows what to do. Like you have, like, how do you accept payment? Do you need contracts? Because when you start getting more clients, you're like, I feel like this is illegal to just not pay taxes on this, and like all that weird stuff that no one really talks about, and you don't really learn in school. And so maybe we could talk about that a little bit, and how did you go about learning certain like professional aspect? Like, did you use online? Did you learn from people?
Yeah.
How did you start?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like the first thing that people really try to pay attention to in getting into all of this is like, you know, how do I take photos? How do I do this like transition effect, or like what camera to use? But no one really like looks up, how do I manage my books? Or like, how do I, you know, like organize money and just like put things in the right places? And for me, like it was important to just ask somebody like John a bunch of questions on like how he goes about his business, because it's super important to like keep things organized so that you don't run into problems later. And I think there's no better time than like the beginning stages so that you set yourself up for like success, because there's a lot of people that get into it and then the first thing they think about is just, I want to create a bunch of cool things. And I definitely think you should definitely create all those cool things, go shoot as much as you can, go hang out with as many people as you can. But then it's also important to, when you like do a mentor session with somebody, to ask them questions about the business side and like just get, you know, your like business account set up and like, you know, learning about taxes and not stressing about it like super last minute. And I think all of those things like really take part in being a business owner, because that's essentially what we want to do. Like we want to go full time and we want to own a business that's successful, but that also stays afloat, like, you know, like above water. You don't want to sink right away. So yeah, I mean, definitely like reach out to people that you are inspired by, creatively, and like see how they manage their things. And I mean, for me, it was John, and you know, I was like blessed with like the opportunity to like hang out with him all the time, and like now we're great friends. And you know, he taught me a lot, and so I think it's super important to like just pick someone's brain and like see what you can do with you know, what you get back. So
it is super important to have. I mean, mentor. It's like one of those things when you're growing up, and you're like, oh, have a mentor. But when you're actually trying to find one, you're like, what am I looking for? Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Like when they think of a mentor, sometimes it's like maybe they need to talk to some CEO or some super successful cinematographer or who's making movies. Like that's a mentor. But sometimes a mentor can just be a really good friend. Yeah. And learning life lessons from this person that are very practical tips, like how to start a business and doing things like contracts, invoices. Yeah. Like you said, booking. Like even email copy, like what to say to clients, how to close out, how to intro, those little things that make your business a freelance business.
Exactly.
And one thing that I picked up while starting my freelance business as well was there's a reason why it's called a freelance business and not a freelance charity. Like there's a business side to it. And you just mentioned before, like a lot of people want to do cool things. Yeah. And I totally agree because everyone just wants to create cool stuff and be creative, and that's totally fine. Like you should have that creative drive, but at the end of the day, like if you're really trying to sustain this, you need to make it a business. Exactly. You can't just be making cool stuff, because if you don't have the business side of it, you're going to end up finding yourself going back to a 9 to 5, going back to a corporate job. So understanding the business side of a freelancing is so important. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, like one of my good friends said something like, hobbies don't pay the bills. And like, unfortunately, that's true, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, starting out, it is a hobby, like something that we love and are passionate about and we want to do and just create. But then there's also like, if we are wanting to make this a full-on freelance business and like go full-time, there are steps that you have to take and like educate yourself on. And I think it's super important to find people that are actually in it, like in the industry, like have been in it for maybe more than like 2 years, and just see where they're at and like learn from them. I mean, going back to emails, like I did not know how to like send emails to like professionally. Like to clients, or like let alone like brands, especially brands. Like you want to come off confident and like strong with your work and like, you know, just be who you are and sell yourself. And it wasn't until I met my friend Birdie Managi, who like really showed me like, this is how I go about emails with businesses, and like how I reach out to companies to work with them, or how to respond. I remember like the first few emails I ever got from like wedding clients, I used to screenshot and send over to John, and he would check and just be like, yeah, that's good, you know? And it's like, just things like that, like little things that really make a difference, because, you know, a messy email could easily ruin an opportunity for you. For sure. And so like just being prepared and like just taking all the steps necessary is super important. And just, you know, truly being like a student of the game, like people say all the time in sports, like just always be willing to like take in these new things, whether it be, you know, your email or how to do taxes, or something as simple as invoicing. Definitely. Like we know how to receive money, but how do you go about it the right way? Like we all want to receive properly, money. Yeah. Exactly. And like you want to make sure that you like do these things that really make you legit, because in the end, like it's always fun to create, but all this other hard stuff that is like, you know, kind of what's the word? I guess stressful sometimes. Exactly. Like you want to pay attention to and like make sure you're on top of that and that you go about it correctly, because there's such a wide spectrum of like professionalism within this industry, and like there's people that go about it and just accept payments through like Venmo all the time and like not accounting for it. Yeah, like if something, not that it's sketchy like in the moment. Yeah, so it's like you just don't know what to do with that. But then you know, there's just certain things you should pay attention to, and I think it's super important to like pick someone's brain, like a Jonathan or a Birdie, or just anybody that you really admire and that you know that they're going about it the right way, just to just reach out and be like, hey, like, you know, I want to know about the business side too, and like how to go. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I mean, the ratio, it's let's say you're freelancing. This is my personal opinion. Maybe you can get your opinion on this too. But I personally think that if you're freelancing, especially in the creative space, I personally think you should be spending like 75% personal branding and like 25% creative. Oh, for Most people are like, it's 90% creative and talent. And then, oh yeah, I'll figure out the client stuff. Yeah. It's like, it's actually the opposite, because for all you listeners and viewers, if you're actually creating content professionally speaking, how many days out of the month are you actually shooting? Yeah. Like maybe 2 or 3, right? Yeah. Everything else is editing time, personal branding, quote unquote. But what we want to share with people who are trying to find the passion is that is all important. Like Monday through Friday, you might have like one shoot on Wednesday for 2 hours, but what are you doing with the rest of the 4 days in the week? And that's why it's so important to be personal branding, working on contracts, working on like even profile photos, like everything, like the whole brand aesthetic. And I think you do that well because you have a graphic design background. Yeah. So you've kind of blended the two together and have dope aesthetics, and then also you're like a great cinematographer too. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's super important to like not only have great work, but be able to like present your work in, you know, a super nice way. And I like you
it's always nice to see something cool on YouTube, but then when you visit their website, it's like it's just a total clutter, right?
Yeah.
And like you want to make sure that when brands see you, or that when potential couples and clients see you, like they see your website, they see who you are, and they see a great aesthetic with it, and that they want to book you and like want to talk to you and really want to engage in that, rather than not know how to navigate certain things and
true.
And not know where to even contact you. I think that's super important. So I try to do my best with like branding as far as like my website and all that goes, and trying to keep everything like consistent. That's something that's super important to me too, just like consistency throughout your website or like your Instagram and your Facebook, like not keeping those things all separate, but maybe like inclusive as far as aesthetic goes and like those things. So
when do you think then, if you're a freelancer or you're trying to build a business, and maybe you are working a 9 to 5, or maybe you are working a job, you haven't made the jump yet, when do you think individuals should start learning about like invoicing, contracts, like what threshold? Like that's something that I dealt with, because I was like, man, I don't have many clients. Like, is it really necessary to have to like go through all this contract process and get tax information? Like, I kind of want to just like guerrilla style this.
Exactly.
But I still to this day don't know when I should really like exert my professional side, because sometimes I'm like, I'm not even that professional yet. Is this really necessary? Yeah. But when do you think someone, like how many clients or at what point in their creative journey should they start like, okay, I need to really sit down and start talking about contracts, invoices, emails, and just branding in general on the business side?
I mean, I feel like anybody that has a thought about going full-time should like, just consider like learning about everything, because I think it's better to get into it and like already kind of have an idea of what to expect. That way it's not such a big learning curve, because I can tell you now, like if I got into this without like talking to John or anybody or like people like you and some of our friends, like man, I don't know where I'd be. So I think it's super important just like reach out even when you have that thought, just like, hey, like I'm thinking about going full time, what does it look like being a business, like a full-time business, and what steps can I take to learn more about the business side? Excuse me. And then just really going from there, because the last thing you'd want is like to get into it and then just be like, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going with this. Am I accepting payments in cash? Am I accepting payments like on Venmo? Like,
am I sending like receipts?
Yeah, or
like
like credit card fees? Like you don't know any of that stuff. And I mean, this is like all broad talk right now, but I mean, it's definitely important to just like do some research and when you kind of have that thought. But then definitely like I would say when you get like a business license or something, like
it's like that would be a good
definitely.
That'd be a good product to sell.
What?
Like a PDF on like.
Oh yeah, I mean, business? I'm sure people are already getting onto it.
Right,
I mean, there's like tons of workshops and like
we should talk about that
sessions.
after the podcast. right. Trying to make some money, like ideas coming up in the middle of the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's super important to do, and that's why I'm like glad that you're doing a podcast now and you have this YouTube channel going more often, because like people can learn more about it.
Exactly, and that's what I want this podcast to be, and for the viewers and listeners. I want this to be like a safe zone, like no judgment, like in the sense that I don't care if you have social clout, I don't care if you are working on crazy projects. Like the whole point of this is so, I mean, for one, it's a huge inspiration for me to talk to creatives, but also tapping into the minds of people that don't really put this kind of information out. Like, I mean, you have really sick work, it's awesome, but no one really gets to see who Jeffrey Lee is, like aside from your portfolio and all your cool stuff. Which kind of brings me to my next question then, would be, a lot of times people will say, oh, well, I can't really be a business because I don't have social clout. Like, no one's going to find me. I can't really make money. Like, I don't have 10K followers. I don't have 1 million subscribers. How can I make this even a reality? Is it even, I don't know. I mean, realistic was last week's podcast. But for you, how many, like, Instagram followers do you have?
Like, I don't know, like 2,000.
Yeah.
It's really...
But then, like, how many weddings did you book your first year, though?
28 my first year.
Dude, that's exactly what I'm saying, though. Like, you don't have like a huge, massive following compared to these people, but you booked 28 weddings your first year of shooting weddings.
For sure.
And that is obviously full-time income that you could do and not work a day job. So maybe you want to share some advice on like breaking through that mental struggle of like, oh, I don't have social clout, but it's okay because I could still build this business and still make a comfortable living, even though you don't have a huge, massive audience yet.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you definitely don't need like 100K to like book weddings, because at the end of the day, like it's about what you're providing and the service you're providing, and you could have a million and not provide a great experience for couples. True. And like provide work that isn't something that people really want. And of course, like brands do want to work with bigger numbers just because from a business side that makes most sense for them. But then it does not mean that that should hold you back from being able to create work. Because before Instagram, there was people that were still creating work, still doing wedding photography, still doing all these things that were like awesome. And Instagram just so happened to be able to share those things, and people wanted to follow those things. And I have some friends that say, oh man, I can't wait till I get 10K to do certain things. And in my mind, I'm just like, well, you're able to do those things nonetheless, and you should be able to do what you want to do regardless of the numbers. And something that really stuck out to me was Birdie again, someone that I look up to, great friend as well. He always said that even when you reach out to companies and if they don't want to work with you for whatever reason, at least they know who you are and they can come back to you later and like set something up.
Oh, for sure.
I've reached out to a ton of brands, and I mean, at the end of the day, like not all of them will get back, and that's totally fine because you really just need to shoot your shot. And if it goes in, it goes in. If you miss, you miss. But you just keep going and seeing where things go, and you just keep pushing, because at the end of the day, the ones that kind of just give up and stop because of the numbers or because of an excuse related to Instagram or, social, like, as you said, like social clout, then those are the ones that maybe aren't in it for the right reasons. And I think when you start, you should definitely look at why you want to do this and like, can you imagine yourself not doing it? And for me, like, I can't really imagine myself not doing it because I don't know what else I do. Because this is exactly what I'd want to be doing something to share something with others and create for myself, but create for awesome couples and like, travel with them and tell their stories. And I think that's something that you should look at before you get into it, because if you're getting into it and you're saying, I need the numbers to do this, then maybe you don't really want to do it, because it's more than just gaining crazy amounts of followers, which isn't really important anyways. Like, that brings no financial gain, or that doesn't pay the bills and anything. So
that was that like little tidbit for the past like 30 seconds was like the nugget. That's, in my opinion, like that's why I love this podcast. Yeah. That's where the name comes from, is MIDCONVO, because we're having a conversation, and I think that past 30 seconds what you just said was super helpful, and and that was helpful for me, and I'm like hosting this podcast. So like, oh my God, bro, that was awesome. Yeah. That was seriously cool. Now I 100% agree with everything that you're saying. Yeah. So I noticed that Birdie and Jonathan, these two people, individuals in your lives, have clearly played like a pretty big impact on your business side. Role, yeah. So for a common question that I kind of get from people is, well, I don't have a circle, I don't have a friend, I don't have any mentors. Yeah. I'm just starting out and no one really wants to like collaborate with me. Sure. What advice would you give to someone who doesn't have a John or a Birdie in their life, or who doesn't have a mentor that they can actually go and seek out? Where can you go to like actually get that then if you're not currently in a situation where you have a circle that just drives you all the time?
Yeah. One thing that my brother told me once, when I was doing design and I was like looking for internships, he's like, you should just reach out to people, because people love, hearing messages from people that are actually driven and being genuine and that really want an opportunity. So I would just say like reach out to people that you really admire, and like maybe not through like Instagram DMs, but maybe be a little bit more professional about it and just like email them, like send them an email. Like, how many emails are they really getting about mentor sessions or just hanging out? And not to just go shoot, like, I'm sure like, you get tons of like DMs that are like, hey, let's go shoot sometime, maybe something a little bit more genuine, and like really see if they're the right fit for you. Because like, of course, like you admire all these cool people, but really see if they're the right fit. Because like if John and I just didn't click, none of this would have happened. So I think it's super important to like find people that you really click with, regardless of what type of work they do, or maybe like their numbers, which you really shouldn't worry about at all. Like just really find people that are really cool and like see what they want, like as far as like what you could help them with, and like go do some shoots with them, and just help out. I don't know, just reach out and make your own opportunity. Don't ever wait for it, because there's a lot of people that are like, well, I don't know anybody, I'm just gonna wait until I get better work. And I think that's the last thing you want to do, to like hesitate on the opportunity, because sometimes you just have to make your own. So yeah, just reach out and like make your own opportunity and see where things go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that going along with that would be, a lot of people need to understand that you kind of have to like connect with people that are also at the same level as you, whether that's in a social like friend circle, or like maybe it is like your following or your skill set. Because too often I see people who are just starting out, like they just bought a camera, and then they're like DMing people who have like 100,000 Instagram followers, being like, hey, let's collab, let's shoot. It's like, you have to put yourself in their shoes. Like, they're not gonna want to film with you because, one, you obviously just started, and two, as harsh as this kind of may sound, we live in a very like give and take world. Like, if you aren't offering anything to your friends, it's kind of like a friendship. If you're not giving anything, they're gonna eventually stop being friends with you, because friendships are about like give and take. And it's the same thing in the business world. It's like, if you're not offering some kind of value, it doesn't have to always be monetary, you know, like money. It could be like, is this person inspiring me? Is this person driving me creatively? And if you don't have that to offer, people aren't going to just do charity work and just like hang out with you. That's something that I kind of learned the hard way too, is because when I first started out, I was trying to contact all these big people, but they always would never reply, and I'd be like, well, this sucks because no one's replying. But then when I started reaching out to people that were kind of at the same level as me, that's when my true growth started, because we can all learn and build together instead of trying to like be at the tail end of someone else's like journey. You know what I'm saying? And I think you have to just understand that if you do reach out to people, you have to look at your portfolio and really be honest with yourself. Like, am I really putting in the work right now? Or am I just trying to find a shortcut that has someone who has big following, someone who's talented, that I could just like suck all their energy off of and try to grow off of their audience? Like, be honest with yourself. Are you really trying to work hard and get to where you want to go? Or are you trying to like use or leverage people? And that's something that I learned as well.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's super important to be genuine about like connecting with people. Because I mean, when I started, like, you know, John wasn't on the same level as me. I was like, I still don't, I hold John at such a high regard. Like, same with Birdie and like, you know, all the friends that I look up to. Like, I hold them at such a high regard. I don't think they're on the same level as me. And I mean, he might say differently, I don't know. But for me, like, I just wanted to be genuine with them and like really just learn. And like, I remember like the first few like weeks of just hanging out with John, I was like, dude, thanks so much, like, for like just letting me into all of this and like just teaching me certain things. And like, it was so important to me to just kind of pick his brain, but also just be genuine about it. And I think it all comes down to being genuine. I don't think it has to be someone on the same level. I think you can reach out to whoever you want, as long as you're just genuine and not looking to get like shout outs for whatever reason.
Like leverage them.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, like, I think Instagram has ruined kind of this mentality of like what photography and, you know, the creative world is. Like, you don't have to have such a big following. You don't need to get all these shout outs. You don't need to get reposted. You should just do it because you don't imagine yourself doing anything else. Oh shoot.
Take off that jacket. It's cold out here in Seattle,
flex your right bicep.
No, it's getting cold out here in Seattle, so I'm wearing like 3 long sleeves right now. Like, it's a long sleeve and a flannel, and then also. Okay, let's just pick up that kind of where social media was.
Yeah.
Guys, confession to make, the recording stopped, and we're not sure where it stopped, so we're trying to pick up where we left off, kind of.
That's what happens when you film on like a normal camera that has a time
I wish
limit.
there was like a device that I could like hold in my hand and see like if the red dot is beeping.
Dude,
we should invent it.
You should ask Rhino to make it.
True.
Yeah. Shout out to the ARC 2.
Yeah, ARC 2. I should talk about my old job on one of these podcasts one day.
Yeah, well, I mean, talk about it now. Like, I mean, that's super important.
I guess that's true. But then it wouldn't be featuring you. Then it'd be a podcast about me. Maybe one day we could switch it.
I could interview
you.
This could be my podcast now.
Whoa! I'm getting podcast jacked right now.
You're mid-convo. I'm early convo. Scott is late convo. Because no one wants to talk to Scott.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's go.
Just kidding.
Let's go back to social media. So, small creators. There's a lot of people who don't have big followings. I mean, all of us, like, we don't have there's not much following.
Yeah, so. I mean, and it's all relative, dude. Like,
it is relative.
You know, like, there's some people with, like, 100K that don't think they're big, and there's people with, like, 1 million that, you know, are, like, huge. So
well, I personally know people who have over, you know, 50, 60, 80, 100,000 followers, and they still struggle with the business side.
Oh, like, most definitely.
Like, you would think that, like, you made it at that point and you can, like, really monetize your audience, but I'm telling you guys, I've met people who have 1,000 Instagram followers and they're killing it. Like, they're cozy, they're living life just the way they want to with no Instagram followers. And that's why we keep coming back to it, which is what nobody talks about, which is the business side of freelancing and content creation.
Yeah, or just, like, things that no one really, like, the first things you hear, like, when you get into it, it's like, oh man, I wish I was doing what you're doing. You get to travel, you get to, you know, take photos for a living. But it's like, oh man, like 90% of my week is just dedicated to the desk. You know, just like editing and, like, you know, going on QuickBooks, like, just pretty much managing all that stuff, like emails and, like, and, you know, it sounds like kind of like petty stuff that we're not complaining about, but sometimes like struggle with, like emails. Like, really, you're struggling with emails? Like, well, it takes
emails
time.
Are tough.
It takes time.
Okay, emails are.
It's slept on.
Dude. Emails is so slept on because
slept on.
I remember when I was first. Like, who has sent? I don't know about you, but I've sent so many emails where I'll think hard and long on it, and I'll send it. And as soon as I send it, I'm like, dude, I don't know if I said the right things to close this client. Like, I might have said too much, and you don't want to be, like, overly friendly where you come off casual, but you also don't want to be like act like you got like issues and you're just, like, super anal about everything. So riding that thin line to close clients, and it depends on your clientele too. Like, if you're obviously talking to wedding couples, you might be a little more informal, but if you're talking to, like, Amazon or Microsoft, you don't want to be like putting smiley faces and emojis in your email. You know what I'm saying? So emails.
Shout out emojis.
Emails are a tough one. Like, I feel like that's something that you really do have to learn.
For sure.
Because you don't learn any of this in school. You don't learn how to pay your taxes. You don't learn contracts. You don't even learn how to write a proper email in school.
Yeah, I mean, like, the one class in high school that, like, showed me how to do taxes had nothing related to, like, that. It was just like, maybe we should learn about taxes for, like, a day. And so they brought somebody in, and it was just like a normal form. Like, if you actually had, like, a job where they send you all that stuff, then that's how you fill it out. But how do you do it without, you know, like, a formal job? Like, you know, that's all things that are important, and you just have to take steps to learn.
So, talking about brand cohesiveness, we were kind of hitting on that earlier. If you were to give someone, like, if you were mentoring someone and you were to give them 3 pieces of advice for personal branding, like, what are the top 3 things that you would say to, like, work on? I mean, aside from creating content, like, obviously that's something that you gotta get skillful at. But I mean, if, for example, like, websites or, like, your logo or, like, certain things like that, like, what are, like, 3 really important things that you need to focus on before you start, like, going gung-ho on your business?
Well, I mean, starting off with your logo, I think the simpler the better. You don't want it to be, like, crazy because, you know, like, it's just a small thing that you're going to put somewhere and no one's going to see the small details. So maybe just keep it simple and balanced and something that relates to you, not just something that looks cool, but something that really relates to you. I mean, hire somebody if you have the budget for it, but...
do you still do graphic design?
I do.
Hey, hit up Jeff. You need a logo, though. Hey, his stuff's fire. So if you guys need a logo, just plug you. If you guys need a logo, Jeff, hit up Jeff. Anyway, second point.
Website, or I don't know if these are points. Maybe just, like, things to pay attention to.
No,
but with your website, like,
it's like,
keeping it balanced, and making sure that it's, like, simple enough for people to understand and not super busy. And but that's my taste. These are all things that, you know, like, are coming from, like, my perspective. Like, maybe you like things that are more, you know, more busy, maybe something with more content. That's totally up to you. But for me, like, I love simple things. I love keeping it easy to read and, like, not too busy, and making sure that everything's consistent, especially with, like, how you word things. I think that's super important. Consistency, and having a style that you're really selling. Like on my website, I'm trying to lean more towards, like, destination weddings and elopements, and, like, those things that I'm really passionate about, and I have a lot of like landscape photos on there. So it kind of just all meshes in together and kind of sells the brand that I want to sell, and rather than something that I don't really want to do. And so yeah.
Yeah. So I think something that we could talk about is something that's been a blocker for me when I was working on my personal brand was too many times I got caught up on like making my logo perfect, making my website perfect, making sure that like this copy looks flawless, right? And I would spend no joke, like weeks. I would spend weeks on
me too.
Literally like one single website page. And I'm like, and I haven't booked any clients yet with that page. And I'm like spending way too much time on this one thing. And so I've kind of learned to enjoy like the ugly parts of the process. Like sometimes you just got to throw it up, get it out there, and start booking clients, because obviously you can optimize it as you go, but I think a lot of people fall off in like the personal branding side because they get compare themselves too much to other people who are killing it. They're like, well, my website doesn't look like this person's website yet, or my Instagram profile doesn't have a cohesive feed like this person's feed. But if you never start, you're never gonna ever get to that point. And so that's something that I learned because I was spending way too much time on personal branding. When, like in this podcast, when I was starting this podcast, I don't even have like a proper intro sequence yet. I don't even know what tracks I'm gonna use. I didn't even have like a cover photo like my first podcast. But I wasn't gonna like waste a month or two trying to put all this stuff together and then come out with my first episode. Because then I would do that and I'd be like, wow, I wish I would have just started content. Because when you have all those assets done and you look back on it, you're like, well, I still have 0 listeners because I didn't spend any time on starting. And so now I'm like, this stuff is gonna change like as we go along.
Exactly. And it's like all a work in progress. Like I'm by no means am I saying like learn everything before you even book somebody, like, or have everything set up before you even book somebody. Because like at the end of the day, like, you know, it's all a learning process. You're gonna learn things that you didn't know at the beginning, and you're gonna be able to add to it, and that's totally fine. But yeah, just like understand that it's a learning process, and that everything is a work in progress, and that everything will come together eventually, like your website. I mean, when I first had my website, it was like super simple. Like there was nothing. It was literally just my videos, and then maybe like an about me page. It was like nothing. And then,
simple's better though.
And like people love that. And now like, you know, I just added on to it, and there's a bunch of things. And that same goes with like the business side of things. Like in the beginning, I had no idea, absolutely no idea about how to do anything, not even accept payment. Like I know.
PayPal.
And so
Cash
just
App.
like, I mean, it goes back to just reaching out to people and just like learning these things. And like, once you start learning more, you're like, okay, I can implement that. Like, does it work for me? And so,
Do you, hold on, there's like a bus going by, kind of waiting for this to go by. Do you want to turn your hat around? I feel like people don't get to see your face much.
Sure, I can turn my hat around.
Show more of Jeffrey's face. There you go.
I was wondering why he was looking at my like hat the entire time. I was like, this guy's looking at my hat.
Oh man. Okay.
I was like, is there like something on my hat?
No, I just thought about it, and I was like, because I was like watching you, and then you had like a shadow on your eye. I was like, I wonder if like people are gonna not be able to see your face once I color grade this, because Sony footage sucks when you're grading.
It's me.
It's Jeffrey.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? I was gonna say, I just lost my train of thought. I'm probably gonna cut this because I don't want dead space in podcast. That's super lame. Because if you're listening right now, you're like, wow, why is this podcast not going?
That's the nice thing about not doing audio or video.
Yeah,
you can cut out.
Oh, it was something important. Oh, yes, I got it. Train of thought.
Sure. Okay, we're back in. Action.
How do you deal with? Do you have creative blocks?
Oh, most definitely.
Do you have times when you're like working in your career so far as a freelancer and you're just like, I don't want to create anything, I don't want to edit anything, I don't want to talk to anyone, I just want to like chill?
Are we saying creative block as in like,
I guess not burnout and creative block?
Yeah, because that's burnout.
Yeah, that's two separate things.
Like a burnout.
Okay. Well, let's talk about burnout then. How do you break through that? Like when you feel overwhelmed or you feel like you're not doing your best, what practical things do you do to get rid of that feeling?
I think it comes down to pacing, to like not get into a burnout. Because I'm all about going hard 24/7 and all that, but at some point you have to learn that you need a break. Like you need to pace it. Like I know we talked about this. Like you're like, how do you edit? Do you just sit there and edit for like 10 hours? And I'm like, no, not really. I sit there and edit for like maybe 2, 3, then like go have lunch, go step outside and actually see somebody that's other than myself.
Civilization.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Get back in society.
And I think that's super important because you don't feel so enclosed in a spot. And especially for me, like I'm in a small room. Like it's not like I live in a crazy nice house or like any of these things. So I don't just have something to do all the time. So it's super important for me to get out and like go socialize, go hang out with our friends and do those things. But definitely pace yourself and be responsible with that time because you can easily go hard for 12 hours and then get super burnt out and not work for like the next 3 days. But then if you spread those like the amount of time you would go through 3 days and just pace it out and like work in the morning, take a little break, work again, take a little break, and then go do what you got to do. But then again, like it really comes down to what works best for you. Some people can work like that and be totally fun, and that's totally okay. Like there's no one way to do it. So just find out what works best for you and just approach it that way and just try out different methods. My girlfriend, she's in nursing school right now, and we're trying to talk about which are the best ways to like study. And like she's like, man, I just feel like I'm studying all day long.
Yeah.
And to combat that, I was just like, why don't you just an hour before you go to bed, why don't you just try not doing anything, just relax before you go to bed, so that when you wake up and study again, it doesn't feel like you just
for sure.
We're studying all day, went to bed, woke up, studied again. So just see what works best for
yourself.
you. Exactly, pace yourself and just see what works best. But as far as creative block goes, I don't know if I really believe in that. I mean, like I understand that, like.
Whoa, I never heard that before.
Yeah,
you don't believe in a creative block?
Well, me and my friend Jig, he's one of my best friends.
It's a dope name.
Yeah, I know.
Jig.
It's really cool. Well, his full name is Jignesh, but we call him Jiggy or Jig. Get jiggy with it, whatever. But it's a really cool name. Yeah. But he's like really big into art, and he's a great artist. And we talk about it sometimes where like, yeah, we may not know how to go about certain things, or like, you know, for him it's, I don't know what to draw. But sometimes maybe you just need to draw, like just draw something and see where it goes from there, and maybe we'll get past it. But I don't believe in like, oh, I can't do something for a couple of days. I think you can always do something.
True.
Like for us, it's easy. Like just go outside and like go take a few photos, or go outside and just create something. Try a new challenge. Do you know Brandon Lee?
Yeah.
He did he did the room challenge, or hotel room challenge.
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool because like meanwhile I'm there sitting like, oh man, I need to plan out this like crazy expedition and go document the craziest things, and like I need to go to Yosemite. Meanwhile, like I'm in my room, I could create something like cool. Like it doesn't have to be anything like
extravagant.
Like you can still practice these things, and I think that's something that we just have to learn to do. And I fall guilty, or I'm guilty of it, like not like being able to do something, or like not wanting to do something. So I think it's just work through it.
I think it's just like having baby steps, you know? Like
exactly.
A lot of people, like for everyone listening or watching, if you are having like a quote unquote creative block, like one question I would tell you to like ask yourself would be, think of your last project. Does it kind of like overwhelm you a little bit? Then you shouldn't be doing that as your project right now. Especially if it's just like a YouTube video. If it's like client work, then of course you have to get it done. Yeah. But I mean, when I was first starting YouTube, when I first started, I was like, oh, I'm gonna make this crazy film. I'm gonna travel to these places. I'm gonna make these epic cinematic vlogs. Before I knew it, I literally wasn't putting out anything. Because every time I thought about making those videos, I was like overwhelming myself. I was like, I gotta like edit that, storyboard that. And before you knew it, I was like not making any content. But the reason why I started like making the jump, this podcast, was because when I thought of it, I'm like, oh, I can do that. I can set up a camera and a mic, and I can just talk to someone, and that's content for me. So start baby steps. If what you're trying to do is overwhelming you, then take a step back and start with something that you know for sure you could do like mindlessly. Like you know that you could do that. Like go out on your, go out to a coffee shop that who's a barista and get some B-roll. Like that's easy for you. You know you could do that. That right there is basically what Peter McKinnon does. So Peter McKinnon does way other stuff. But imagine if you had to do epic films all the time. The reason why he has such regular content is he's just making like little cinematic sequences out of his day. He doesn't have to overwhelm himself trying to make a crazy film every single week, every single month.
I mean, that's like what Casey Neistat was doing too.
Yeah.
Like he was just roaming around New York, just doing cool things. And even if you don't live in New York, like maybe you live out in like Snohomish, which is like the, I guess, farmy area. I don't know. That's too stereotypical.
Like, people are like, where's Snohomish?
But you can do cool things out there, dude. Like there's so many cool things you can do, and I think less excuses and maybe just more action and just doing it, and like it doesn't have to be anything crazy.
Baby steps.
You could film the interior of your car and make it look cool.
True.
I mean, if you scroll down your YouTube channel, we'll probably find some of that stuff.
Oh, okay. Old Ed making the car vid. Hey, you used to make car vid. You had that one car vid. I made one
because which was fire. Someone asked me to.
Which was fire, by the way. I mean, he makes wedding films now, but
yeah, it's funny how things change. But,
yeah. Let's go full circle. Kind of wrap the podcast up. What do you plan on accomplishing now? Like you basically started on a business. Long story short, you started on a business. You ended up making wedding films.
Yeah.
You know, full time.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in a year, 2 years? Like, I guess you haven't quote unquote made it probably in your mind, but you've got to a point where you can comfortably support yourself as a freelancer. Where do you go from here now as a freelancer? Like, do you just keep pushing it out, or do you have actual like hard goals that you'd like to hit, you know, in the next year or two?
I mean, I think it's super important to have goals, like to at least have some sort of vision. That way you're not just going like in every direction and like actually headed somewhere. And for me, it's just to continue documenting awesome weddings and maybe move towards more adventurous weddings. But for now, it's pretty much just continuing to book weddings, seeing if I can book even more weddings, or just learning more of the business side and learning more from like people like John or other people who I'll meet. But I wouldn't say like, oh, like I want to book 40 weddings or like certain things like that, because I feel like that's almost in a way like, of course we have those aspirations, but I don't know if it's in my mind something that I can control, because one year I might have 5 and 1 year I might have 20. There's so many things that are dependent on it, but I just want to continue being the best that I can be, and like, you know, branding myself appropriately and like doing these things and just learning to connect with more people and doing all those things. But I guess I don't really have a goal. It's just kind of
I now know what we're gonna talk about after the podcast.
So basically, like,
when you're crushing it so hard that you don't have goals.
I don't know.
I've hit all my goals.
I don't know. So I mean, I literally just started off like, I think it's important to have goals, and I realized I don't have one like a concrete goal.
Well, you want to start YouTube.
Oh yeah,
that's a goal. You just talked about that before.
That's something that I really want to do. I guess that is. Maybe I was thinking of more like
like monetary, like not monetary, but creatively speaking.
You
want to start a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I definitely want to start that and like maybe get that going with John. Cool. I know we've been talking about it, so
I'm stoked for that. Well, thank you for joining the podcast. I'm gonna link all of Jeffrey's, either his Instagram or his website. Go check it out if you need some inspiration on the business side of freelancing. But dude, thanks for joining the podcast. 3rd episode, down in the books.
Sweet.
Lit. Bye, guys. Lit.